faster. But we'll get into this. If these are sub replays, I understand exactly where this comment comes from because I feel the exact same way. Yeah, so going back to establishing an offense, already this is not an awful start. It's a pretty aggressive round start, but in the grand scheme of things, it's relatively safe. Yeah. And you're already noticing they're very much fishing for reflex. We are opting to get the ban. You are brave. And so far, it's looking pretty good. Good incoming. They're at full on dizzy. So you were... Oh, right, I don't want to be doing that. I want to be doing... I'm not in the game. So when you see something like this, as Parasol, almost always, when you see the alpha counter, you have time to get a pillar out. I recognize that you were doing shot here. Another thing you can do... Oh, versus Bella, it's weird. You can try and bikes here. It will lose to the 360, which is the one really unfortunate part, because bikes won't have hit stop. So, and Sev will 360 you there if you do that. So this is not a bad outcome. But things to be thinking about in general when dealing with alpha counters. You actually have some frames to react to what's happening before it happens, so you can kind of think about your options like that. This is best case scenario. Don't do anything I was saying. Oh no! No instant snap. I'm pretty sure here you can... Oh, you don't have an assist. Yeah. If you're not snapping immediately, you gotta be quaking. Quake level 3, but then you don't have meter for snap, you usually kill the assist. This is just unfortunate. Yeah, you had to make a split-second decision and accidentally made the wrong one. Right, now the Umbi is in. Getting for heavy kicked. Dead with the cash out. Not quite. Save the character. Yep. So they did get into Rav. But you did a good job getting in. You have the corner. What's your incoming? Usually, if you're gonna be doing these assist calls like this, I would recommend trying to be meaty. I don't know if that was your intention and you just mistimed it, but feels really bad calling your assist and they just double jump over it because you didn't meaty them and force them to fall into it. Oh no. Okay. It's a good game one, though. What happens? Overextending into brass. Pillar? One thing... where is it? Thing to be trying in situations like these is thinking about chicken blocking. A lot of Bella's heavies that she really likes landing with you on, also medium punch, are pretty easily chicken blocked. So, just a thing to be looking out for. Yep. That's the first time this match, but from last match, you should probably try and have it in the back of your head. They're going to be reflecting most of my shots. Death. Falling jump heavy kick. Just counter hit. Spend it. I think you could have fireball there and still killed. Gives you better setup timing for incoming and less meter to your opponent, I'm pretty sure. So usually, if you recognize you have enough damage to kill with fireball, try and kill with that rather than drill super. And actually, I'm gonna go back here. Once again, when talking about alpha counters, it's a lot easier if you've been thinking about your options beforehand. You have time to react with Kua level 3, and Kua level 3, I'm pretty sure beats everything the band can be doing here. I'm trying to think what other options they have. Pretty sure level 3 should win on reaction. So these are the sort of things you're kind of starting to get in the habit. Yeah. They're just waiting for you to run at them. Okay. But yeah, especially in sets like these, if you don't recognize the player name, which clearly you didn't, you're starting to try and get a mental profile of how they're playing the game. Ruby. So, Softy and I were just talking about this earlier. At least according to the wiki, there's 3 frames of the alpha counter where they're still invincible coming in, but the point character has time to react. So there's 3 frames before anything actually happens. So you do have time to input an option. It is a little scuffed, but it's a thing that exists. The window is there. Yeah, I would definitely check to make sure it works. But this is one of the major things for dealing with alpha counter use is trying to figure out your options for it, because they are reactable. We really don't want to deal with the brass. Yep, doesn't get the sweep. I feel you. Alright. You don't get much off of this, but you walk in. Being a little too patient, they get the Bella back in. We snapping the band back in? So... Did we... Okay, so we don't have OTG for corner carry. I would... I like the plan to snap the band back in. Okay. Oh, there's arguments for and against it. And if it's your choice, 100%. I would argue that you should try and corner carry a little bit more before you snap in the band. Give them less space to wiggle around afterwards. Because snapping in the band full screen, you kind of get the setup, but now you're just back into neutral rather than possibly having a more advantageous state. And now you kind of fumbled the bag, lost neutral. You spent that bar for getting rid of the red health on that character, and that was basically it. And so, the thing to be thinking about, also just in general with this team, they're now showing the Umbi is also very much willing to reflect a lot of things. Parasol neutral, while shot helps, doesn't necessarily need to be using shots all that much. I do this a lot versus Bella. It's a little bit different versus Umbi, but I will oftentimes do H-toss, up back H-toss, and then try and do bike guy. And like some combination of that, force them into the air, and then I can use M-shot, or I'll do like H-toss, M-toss, cover the air with a button, all that sort of stuff. You have other ways of controlling space that aren't just shot. And shot, while being a really strong tool, is one of the most interactive tool for a lot of characters who can like deal with projectiles. Umbi and Bella being the two like major characters. Thinking the slippery side would hit you. I get that. It's a really hard habit to get into. I suck at this as well. I need, as a Parasol, when you see this coming, you need to realize I have the tools to deal with this. Jab is your fastest option to check it. If you see this full screen, jab and 2 medium punch are the things you kind of want to get like hardwired into your brain. They're not allowed to do this at me, at a space where I can react. Trying to shut it down. Can I get... No. Which ones are the hitboxes? Okay. Because none of this is distributed. Jab might go under it. Or it might go under jab. I need to check that. I don't think it does, but 2 medium punch just covers a lot of the space. I understand being passive and scared. I do it too. I'm a very reactive player, so I struggle with this as well. But being preemptive with your massive buttons is a major part of the kit. But yeah, and then you just got caught trying to push block it afterwards, which was unfortunate. Incoming. Square root. Go with the air throw, you're stuck in the corner. How do you fight your way up? Dive kick. It's an aggressive option, but definitely changes the pace of the game, gets you out. Okay, how did we get hit? Drop, they tech in, press the war crimes button. First, throw that out. I think you could have gotten reflected on reaction to that. That hasn't hit stop. Kua is jumping a fair bit. Get air thrown. They whiff. Pikachu trying to get fancy full screen. Feels bad. Good blocks. Yep. It's not actually safe. I'm sure you know that at this point. Eesh. Feels bad. Hey, I mean, it's a less punishing counter hit. You're just spending a bar to do it, so. And sometimes people mess it up. I mean, like, Para bikes, pillar bikes for Para is the same deal. I'll do it even if I know they're in a place to punish me, because sometimes they just don't. Sometimes it's just awkward. Okay, but... So, full screen, round start, micro dash. Yeah, okay. Double jump out of the corner, sweep yourself back in. It's a lot of drilling so far. Death. Stuck in the corner. Running. Yep. The tier stayed. No jump cancel. Unfortunate. Death. So much death, yeah. Lost round start. Happy birthday. Never got out of the corner. Not too much to take away from that game. Yep. Not a real block string. Oh, that wasn't even on block, but you gotta recognize your ranges. Snipe is the only way there. You didn't have a system code, did you? Nope. Okay. So the things to know here, I'm gonna list through the options really quickly just in case you're not aware. Quake plus assist usually works. Quake if you don't have your assist up, Quake into bikes. Spends OTG. If you have an assist, an L shot will not get there in time. H shot plus assist, if it lets you combo, will help salvage it as well. So those are kind of all your options. Otherwise, stuff like this happens. Just get mixed. You're so dead. They mix you again. Greedy. So, granted, my Kua is baby. Usually, if I still want to be using projectiles, I'm kind of setting up an M shadow beforehand, so they're afraid to try and reflect with the hip grab in their face. That's sort of the game of rock, paper, scissors I play. But yeah. Oh no! Kicked back into the corner and got hit. Okay. Yeah, they definitely seem to really understand when you are and aren't mashing. And I think you can afford to be a little bit more preemptive with your mash. The way I see it, it definitely seems like you block 2 or 3 things, and your blocks are pretty solid. Unironically, you're doing a good job holding yourself together. And then you go... It takes those 2 to 3 times for you to go, wait, I don't actually need to be holding this, and then you're mashing. But by that point, usually they've had the same thought process. It's like, they've blocked 2 or 3 things... There's been like a small break. I'm gonna do something patient, and it's been blowing you up. So you can take it one of 2 ways. Either you need to recognize that is one of the most telegraphed times to mash and stop doing it there as much, Or you can try and be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more preemptive with your reversals and say, I am just going to try and do something here on the first one. Whether it's a neutral where if you see them running at you and you're like, you're going to press a button. Pillar plus assist, although you don't have great assist for that. But you kind of get where I'm going. Stuff like that. Or the very first mix, you're just going, if I see something I know is a setup, I am buffering pillar there. All of that sort of kind of stuff. Because we're not seeing a lot of that catch them out on some of their more disrespectful approaches. And then the times you are doing it, you're almost always getting blocked for reversaling. And to that point, I don't see your Parasol do it as much. The Annie DP we saw last game, that's probably one of the first times we've saw her just let it rock. But it seems to be a major part of your Fuqua's game plan. Or at least like a bailout point for your Fuqua. And it's starting to really get you punished. But we'll keep going. Cat the backdash, didn't fully get the hit through. One thing you can also do a little bit more. Like, I know the meme, there's the meme about the Parasol ground throw. It's still not an awful throw, the animation makes it feel bad sometimes. But, her reward off of throw is nuts. You get the corner. Like, the reward off of throw is, I have the corner. So if you're ever at a place to threaten high-low, also consider adding in throws, because it's more to the mental stack, and it's not necessarily bad. You get the corner, you get some of the best mix Parasol has in the game. That's really low commitment to set up as well. So, throwing can really help open up these players who seem to be blocking a lot of the stuff you're throwing at them. And it also adds more venom to your other approaches because they have another thought on the top of their head. Get caught with trip guard. Oh, okay, there's a pillar. Proving me a liar. Dealing with all of this. Thank you, M Shadow. Oh. This is another thing I'm seeing. Your assists, it's usually not that bad, but you are getting counter-called a lot by this brass. Specifically your Annie DP. And kind of just recognize that's one of the main use cases for brass. It's the same thing if they're using L and L. There are a couple other assists that get used pretty routinely. And so when you see a team running something like that, they oftentimes also have a bit longer cooldowns. So in the case of this, you could opt to play the Para v Bella matchup assistless, for the most part, and feel comfortable, because it's a somewhat comfortable matchup for Parasol. Obviously there's room for counterplay on both sides. But if you're the one initiating with the assist, you're giving them the free go-ahead to use their giant neutral controlling assist and also let it countercall your assist. So you can kind of think of it as, if neither of us call an assist, I'm usually on the like, I'm in advantage in that state. So you can wait for them to call brass, tag it, then know you have a window to use your DP or M Shadow to press the advantage. Or, you can use your DP assist to counter call brass, because it's pretty reasonable at that too. You will need to protect it because of how anti-DP ends up working afterwards. As we saw there, it can kind of just get hit, and if you're not set up properly to defend it from Bella, kind of just swatting it with large buttons, it can be a little painful, but that still puts, like, it puts the control much more in your court, because you don't necessarily need to be the one initiating. Also, another really good reason to throw. You've been caught by assists overextending Throws usually work around this. Throws also work around a lot of reversals, whether they are throw vulnerable or they're armored reversals, which are also technically throw vulnerable if you want to kind of just lump them all in one category. So there's been a couple times where you definitely dash up, commit to something, where either you end up getting hit by the assist afterwards or you get hit by battle butt in this case. Throw just ruins this all. So it's something you can definitely afford to do more. And then Pua's throw is alright, her command throws are pretty good, although it's unfortunate you need meter. Annie's ground throw is phenomenal, so if you get in the habit of using throw a lot, I think your team will actually do pretty well. Incoming. God, the fact that this DHC works this way is disgusting. This is so much damage. This ain't right. Oh, prayer drop. Bail yourself out. Here, you can just Shadow. They can't parry Shadow. They're forced to choose an option. Although SSJ might beat Shadow here. That's a little weird. Really depends on whether it hits after the throw invuln or not. Oh no. The classic. Yeah, I can see that. Alright. No! Oh, you had the hit. So I have noticed you do go for the detonate snipe a lot. I feel like one major issue with when you do it is you oftentimes end up doing it only with one bar. And I want you to... Or the question I want to pose is, how much more is it worth it for one bar than two? Because it might be worth it to just take the tiny little bit of damage off of detonate and say, alright, we're resuming neutral, with myself like slightly in advantage, compared to spending the bar, because there you opted to stay full screen, not use the crumple at all, and then you're just down a bar when you could save that bar for the time you get 2 bar and then get Stinger right afterwards. And because you get the full combo off of Stinger, because of the Stinger snipe interaction, it's a really strong confirm that it might be worth holding out for. Because then you also get the Annie in, fully comboing, making some of that meter back, as well as just Annie mix is pretty strong. Just a good on-hit character. You're so dead. Or not. That was a good punish. So... the way I think about this situation right here, I understand approaching with Kua is painful, but you're in disadvantage. They have the life lead, they control the pace of the game. You're giving them all the time in the world that they want to set up Umbrella to actually play. So you're opting to play patient when one, wasting time goes in the advantage of your opponent, 2, you're allowing them to actually get into a much stronger position of the game. And I feel like you kind of recognize this a little too late, but... Or, like, you recognize it, but it took a second to be thinking about. And it was like, oh, this is the state of the game, crap, I need to be going forward. But by the time you actually start going forward, and even then you're still kind of like playing the mid-rangey spacey, which, again, I understand, Fukua, but all of a sudden she's in Rav, and she's playing exactly the game she wants to be playing. A little bit of funky mix. Man, nothing like a funky mix. Should play that game again. But yeah. So it's just a little bit of a thing to be thinking about. You do go for dive kicks a fair bit, not keeping them all that safe. But they've been working so far, so can't be very upset about it. How are you playing neutral? Yeah, tried to catch it. Got outspaced a little bit. Yeah. It's hard to do it into big band, but one of the best things to do is kind of just opt to chicken block a lot of those options, or just be dash blocking at them, block them into the corner, and then force them to try and do something to fight their way out. But you definitely had the clock ticking, and not much time to do much of anything, so it's understandable. Patient round start, overextending into the assist again. Oh, I am so shocked you didn't get blasted for this. This versus Bella, Reflector here is pain. Good air throw. Playing patient. Oh, you went for the throw. Not quite spaced. There we go. Nice. Mix. Not quite getting the combo. I feel that on such a level. Alright. Oh no, that was a really good jump light kick, and then the air dash ate your input. But... okay. So you're doing a really good job choking off neutral, and then you finally got checked with that. I'm assuming you wanted projectile. I'm pretty sure the interaction would have gone the same regardless. You're in, you got the hit. Mix, no meter needed. Tag combo. Kill meterless. Nice. Keep the corner as well. What do you do for big band? Munch. Quite dead. Not like this. So, the question I'm posing to you, was any of this necessary? And that's kind of the question you need to ask yourself when playing big bands. Because, in theory, his neutral's bad, but he actually has phenomenal punish game. So if you're making small mistakes, good bands will ruin your day. And this is one of the major mistakes you'll see a lot, and you can also be doing this with Parasol or Kua. It's like if you're on the ground trying to get an L shot off, or if you're trying to set up a shadow, and they do this at the right time, exact same thing happens. So be thinking about, do I really need to be doing this, or do I want them to approach me with buttons? Because outside of symbols, most of their stuff is yeah, baiting it out is alright, but you didn't have anything to full screen punish it, was the thing. So it's like, you might be baiting it, but you're still going to lose the interaction. So it's this kind of thinking about it from that lens. But got there in the end. But yeah, so like you'll see a Divas in the para matchup versus Band. If he's full screen, he is doing up back H toss, and that's literally all he does in the matchup until the Band gets a little closer. Just being very non-committal, forcing the Band to make the first move. I'm not entirely sure what your best options are as Annie, but since can't quite set up the projectiles. But she has reasonable options outside of doing projectiles for neutral. What is it? Is there something for frame data? No. Wrong buttons. All of that was to try and just make the point here. You can press here. You get the land cancel. It's the exact same if like the jump heavy punch for Parasol drops. You chicken blocked it. 2LP is a great option to check. You can also just try and throw them here, although that's a bit more risky. 90% certain that's your turn. Shotting brass. One small point. Thing to be thinking about. Landing on them with jump heavy kick breaks armor. So sometimes they try to catch you with butt. So for characters like Bella who have the armor. Another thing to be thinking about. Landing jump heavy kick also lets you L-toss at any point in time, and then try and catch them with a cheeky double high when they're expecting you to just fall afterwards. Just enables a couple more options. A nice thing to mix in when you're landing on people with. Also much harder to land cancel. And if they mess up the push block, you land right in front of them and get a throw low. Throw low, low throw. Mix. I'm assuming that was Huggies. Oh. What's the cool? So they're usually using relatively big reactive buttons to check your approaches. So that, like that, they'll also use Fugazi Knuckle. And so kind of the way my brain works around those is you can up forward Fugazi Knuckle, you can chicken block jump heavy punch. So if you get like a really quick up forward into chicken block, that usually buys you your way in. You get a free 2LK, that sort of stuff. Obviously, once you start doing it too much, there's always the threat of just the Excella. You're gonna try and bait me here, so I know that you know that I know. Like, you get into the circle of like answering each other's answers. And so that's kind of where you start then reverting back the other way. But that's one really strong way to deal with the really big buttons in this game that kind of check your approaches. Because oftentimes they're relatively large commitments. While they might be technically safe because they have a lot of block stun, if you chicken block the block stun, they're not that safe anymore. It still really weirds me out that she gets a ground special after Jump Heavy Punch. I'm not gonna lie. Umbi is just strange to me. But tech forward into getting hit. Although it looks like you've stopped mashing in general. There's definitely... You can try and pay attention to the options they're choosing and seeing if now is the time to start mashing a little bit more again. I haven't been paying attention to exactly where what the windows have been. Been focusing on other things, but in longer sets, that's kind of where a lot of it goes, is what are you doing to adapt? And Bella 360 is a really cool tool that just wins a lot of the time. What if we gave Daisy better DHC synergy and hit stop? Death. Yeah, finding the windows and matches is... It's hard and it's not for everyone. I'm the type of player who will just try. It's like, screw it, I don't know if this will work, but I'ma just throw it there. There are definitely players who much more prefer, I hate the setup, I will do it in the lab. I'll set a bot on replay to do it on me, and then I will just figure out in this lab all of my options to try and deal with each variation of the setup. And sometimes in matches, you're also just guessing. You're like, this looks vaguely like it's setting up something. I'ma just check if one of my usual answers is good. That's kind of how you end up going. And so for Annie, that's why you end up seeing a lot of people, it's like their panic response option is 2LP. It just wins in a handful of scenarios, so it's typically a safe bet to kind of go, oh crap, I'm scared, like, save me. All that sort of stuff. But you can definitely get much more in the nitty-gritty and have like a definite response if you go into the lab and do it. And it all depends on what sort of player you are, how you like to learn, where you like to be spending your time. And obviously, the more time you play, the more you'll recognize regardless. And it'll kind of just accrue the knowledge. Good mesh. It worked. Oh, that was so close to being too far away. Bye, guy. So I actually fall into this habit too. When you're like full and dizzy, this scaled, off of air throw, actually just do the 2 full strings. Like start with light kick. This is a habit I also need to get myself out of. But it's like you're this scaled. It doesn't necessarily really matter what you're starting with anymore. Kind of just start with the kicks. I'm pretty sure it ends up being for damage. I will need to lab it to check my math, but I'm pretty certain this is the case. Zoning. So you have a lot of time. Confirm. Bought yourself a little bit of space with that, but you've walked yourself into the corner. Mess up the mix a little bit. I see. Okay. This isn't gonna do much for you. Yep. Building the bar to snap. Or are we just killing? We need one more mix to kill. Another thing I'm seeing, specifically with your Parasol, actually, is when you're in the corner, you tend to reset up full Indizzy. Oftentimes your setup do drain a little bit of Indizzy, but you have a very predictable reset point. So even though you might be doing it in a way that keeps yourself safe, or not safe, but like keeps you from scaling with full Indizzy hits, they kind of know exactly when to expect this coming. So setting it up earlier can catch them a little bit off guard. Also just throwing in the random like 4 heavy kick string or 6 medium punch can add a lot more like just mental strain to their game, because they're like, I can't just down back here until I recognize the things are coming, and then I'm like activating. No! Oh, you're getting robbed. That feels bad. Okay. There is something to be said for that situation. It might be a point in time where you can kind of go, I'm not at risk unless I don't block the next 2 or 3 mixes, so I can afford to be patient, but I need to go all the way back and watch it. Yeah, bursting there feels really bad. Pain. Hey, Dre. But yeah, that was great. Yeah. So we talked a good bit about mashing. I did a really poor job of answering your question. How do I deal with reactive players? Again, neutral.mp4 by Krakatoa is what I was trying to surmise, and I did it really poorly. So highly recommend that video. Solid. What were the other like major things? Yeah. That's one of the things I was talking about, Dry. Just adding a lot to the mental stack makes it a lot harder for a player to be reactive. But there was a lot of like small things, and it kind of jumped from ship to ship. Trying to think if there was anything like really overarching that I want to readdress and summarize again. No, I think they're mostly just the little tidbits, like thinking about when and where you're spending meter. You're doing det into snipe and then not having the meter to get the stinger afterwards. When you're doing your reset points. I don't know if there's anything else I really need to nail down. So unless you have any further questions, I think that might be all from me for this evening. And again, if any questions pop up later, just give me a ping. I'll gladly try and re-explain something or address something you think I may have missed. And yeah. Got one more? So if they're reflecting your shots, I'll do this as Parasol. I'll actually show kind of what I do as Kua as well, but I wouldn't feel as comfortable with my Kua advice as I do with my Parasol advice. But what yeah. Don't need that on. Oh wait. That's what I wanted to turn off. So for Parasol, if I notice they're reflecting a lot, the sort of things I end up doing is kind of like... Oh, yeah. I'll do it more in the pattern that makes sense. So it's like if they're expecting a shot here, I'll usually do this because that means they're usually standing still and that cuts them off. And so I'll like do this, and get a bike guy out, and then I'll kind of like shimmy from there, react to how they're going. The other option is if you're staying on the ground, you kind of cut off both options, see how they react. If they go in the air, you can do anything like that, detonate the tier, you can super jump, detonate it like that. You have that. If they try and check you on the ground, you can call M Shadow. You have Bike Guy to cover that space. And if they stay with the tier on them, that's where you can start playing the mind games of, am I going to shoot L shot? Am I going to shoot H shot? Because if they mess up, that's where it starts getting really scary. You also always have the just detonate it on them while they're waiting for a shot to actually come out, because that's so much harder to react to. And so that's kind of what I do with Parasol. Kind of make it a little bit more of a footsies game. You don't have the actual projectile wall that the shots provide. Although if they go in the air, feel free to use M-Shot. M-Shot's really hard for them to deal with if they're not reflecting it. I do similar things with Kua. I talked about it a little bit, but so like, if they're opting to reflect things, I'll kind of do a slower one, get an M-Shadow out there. I did see you do a little bit of, like, TK L-Toss. God, can I not do this? There we go. That sort of things. You can also... and obviously it really depends on the spacing, because if you're like doing an M Shadow close enough for them to Fugazi Knuckle you, you're feeling pretty bad. Or no. Yeah. There's stuff like that. But so, Kua, I'm either trying to whiff short and like bait reactions and get them with that, or I'm trying to be mid-rangey, kind of holding shadows, stuff like that. And again, my Fukua is a lot less confident than my Parasol, so I definitely feel good about this game plan. I don't fully know the holes of the Fukua one, if that makes any sense. But those are the ways I start approaching it. Annie, it's a little bit more awkward because you kind of don't have a great way to have the threat of projectiles still, so you need to address your game plan if they are just going to consistently reflect the crescents, because they are pretty easy to reflect. So think about how you're playing the game without them. Or layering your assists before the crescent gets them so they can't afford to actually reflect it. Those are kind of the two different ways to address it. I typically try to avoid it, but if you have better assists that kind of prevent them from reflecting, it's also a solid option. You have M-Shadow do that for you pretty well. Assists like Brass, I mean, I have Butchers on my other team. I have M-Shadow on this team, so you always have that as a threat. But just know the projectile on its own is likely going to be turned against you. And Umbi, it's a little bit different because she just shoots the tier back at you, but honestly, I think it's worse when Umbi does that, because if they get the tier back on you, all of a sudden one of your most dangerous threats, Detonate, hits you as well, and it feels really bad. As well, it just locks you out from doing another shot for a very long period of time. But yeah. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Yeah. And again, if you have any further questions, just shoot me a ping.